Discipline gets a bad reputation. It's often spoken about like a consequence, something you impose on yourself when you've done something wrong, a way to correct, control, or fix. And for a lot of people, that's exactly how it starts. Discipline becomes something you use to prove you're trying hard enough, that you're serious, that you deserve the outcome you want. So it turns rigid. All or nothing, perfect or failed, on track or completely off the rails. And eventually, it breaks. Because discipline built on punishment always collapses under pressure. Not because you're weak, but because no one can live in self-correction forever. For a long time, I thought discipline meant being hard on myself. It meant pushing through no matter what, ignoring signals, treating rest like a reward you earn instead of a need you honor. And underneath that was something quieter and more dangerous. The belief that if I just did it well enough, consistently enough, perfectly enough, it would finally make me worthy. Worthy of respect, of stability, of being taken seriously. But discipline that's driven by perfection isn't discipline at all. It's fear in disguise. Fear of falling behind, fear of losing control, fear that if you loosen your grip even slightly, everything you've built will disappear. So you clamp down harder. You make rules instead of rhythms. You chase consistency without compassion. You tell yourself that balance is weakness and softness is how people fail. Until one day you realize that the thing exhausting you isn't the routine itself. It's the meaning you attached to it. Because when discipline is about proving something to someone else, to an expectation, to an old version of yourself, it eventually becomes unsustainable. You start doing it for the wrong reasons. Not because it serves you, but because you're afraid of what it means if you stop. That's where resentment creeps in. You show up, but it feels heavy. You stay consistent, but it feels hollow. You keep the routine, but it no longer feels like it belongs to you. And that's usually when people quit. Not because they lack willpower, but because they've been running on punishment instead of respect. The shift happens quietly. It doesn't look like giving up. It doesn't look like easing off entirely. It looks like choosing discipline without cruelty. It looks like letting go of the all-or-nothing mentality that tells you one missed day erases everything. It looks like understanding that balance is not the absence of discipline. It's what allows discipline to last. When discipline comes from self-respect, it changes shape. It becomes something you return to, not something you force yourself through. You still show up. You still keep your routines. You still do the things you said you would do. But you stop using them as a measure of your worth. You stop treating structure like a test you're constantly failing. Instead, discipline becomes a way of saying, I take myself seriously. Not in a loud way. Not in a performative way. In the quiet, unglamorous moments. You wake up and follow through, not because you're chasing perfection, but because you've learned that consistency builds trust. You move your body, not to punish it, but because you respect what it carries you through. You keep your routines simple enough to sustain, flexible enough to adapt, and grounded enough to return to without shame. That's the part people miss. Discipline isn't about intensity. It's about continuity. And continuity requires balance. Because life doesn't move in straight lines. Energy shifts. Bodies change. Circumstances demand adjustment. Self-respect knows how to respond to that without abandoning the foundation entirely. You don't quit because a day went sideways. You don't spiral because something wasn't perfect. You don't punish yourself for being a human being. You recalibrate. That's strength, quiet strength. And when discipline comes from that place, it starts to feel different in your body. Less tension, less pressure, more steadiness. You stop needing someone else to witness it. You stop doing it for validation. You stop chasing approval through consistency. You do it because it's yours. Because keeping promises to yourself builds a kind of confidence that doesn't need to be announced. Because routines become grounding, not restrictive. Because showing up, even imperfectly, becomes an act of respect instead of self-correction. And that's how discipline stops breaking you and starts holding you. Not because you demanded more of yourself, but because you stopped asking discipline to be something it was never meant to be. A punishment. It was always meant to be devotion.